the countryside in England is being colonised. This is something that is clear. The whole country is basically being colonised, but the countryside in particular, because there have been people doing these write-ups about how apparently, and this may be a surprise to you because I don't remember any signs up saying no blacks, no Irish, no sheepdogs or anything, but apparently the countryside is just an incredibly aggressive and hostile place for anybody who's not of direct British descent in this country. Have you guys experienced this?
No.
No, I haven't either, but apparently this is just an undiagnosed pandemic that is going on in the country. And somebody felt the need to write a massive long article talking about the, if you wouldn't mind just moving your microphone down, there we go. Somebody wrote a massive long article complaining about it, with the ultimate solution, of course, being we need more money. That's always the solution to absolutely everything. So let's take a look at that in a moment. We do first have some new content, some new work that we put up on the website. Josh did this recent premium video on his contemplation series on the mouse utopia experiment, which is something that I have always heard about and always sounds a bit scary, to be honest. Whenever I hear people talk about something called the mouse utopia experiment, and they talk about it in these negative terms about how horrible it was, it makes me think something bad probably went down there. So if you've never heard of it, or if you want to explore more of it, or if you just want some refresher and information, you can find that on the website. We offer memberships on the website for as little as £5 a month, and that gives you access to all of the work that we do on there. So please consider signing up, because we do put a lot of work into everything we do. So anyway, this is what got a lot of people in a bit of a huff last week, was this tweet from a Natalie Morris writing for a website called The Lead, or which I'd never heard of before, with this lovely image of these people just walking around the British countryside, giving little love hearts. That woman on the right looking a little bit zonked out. I'm not going to lie, she's got a bit of the SSRI stare, but that's neither here nor there. And she wrote about rural racism, the colonial legacies that mar the British countryside, and the groups working to tackle hate and hostility. And this got a lot of people a bit worried, a bit concerned, a bit confused as to what this rural racism is. Perhaps the sheep are bleating slurs in their direction.
See, if that was written as part of a grant application to the Welsh government, she'd get millions.
Oh, of course you would. Of course you would. And to be fair,
for no scientific reason other than the fact that she'd get millions.
Yeah, for all we know, they might be doing this as we speak. This might be part of an organised campaign. I mean, you don't really need to do much of a campaign. You just need to write a letter to Mark Drayford saying, I'm black, can I have some money, please? Yeah. And he goes, all right, lad, here's a 20 for you. It's like when you go around your gran's when you're a kid and she tells, don't tell your mum about this, and she slips you a tenner or something. That's the Welsh government for anybody who isn't Welsh.
Absolutely.
Absolutely correct.
So I thought it'd be fun to take a look through this article and see what it is that they've been saying, because this is just funny in and of itself, some of the absolute nonsense claims that are made in here, but also is kind of a bit sad. It's a bit of a sad sign of where the countryside is going. Not necessarily that there are now brown people wandering around it, oh God forbid, more just the terms that are being spoken about and the fact that it's basically being treated like the English, by having a countryside, and the Welsh and the Scottish as well, by having a countryside that they have looked after for 1,000 years, just are therefore claiming it for themselves, keeping it from everybody else just has a right to everything, and they are putting up actual markers basically denoting that they own it now. So this article is black and brown hikers are taking back Britain's countryside. Taking back. Do you remember when they had it in the first place?
Must have been pre that 1,000 years ago, I'd imagine. Then,
probably even further back than that.
Yeah, maybe when they were indigenous.
Prior to the...
Well, I've seen no cotton fields in the Brecon Beacons.
Neither have I, but maybe we just weren't looking hard enough. So let's take a look through. So they say hobbies like hill walking, wild swimming, too often seen as the preserve of white people. Okay. All right, but a new generation is challenging the prejudices that stop diverse communities enjoying the great outdoors. Okay, and John had a great response to this on his tweets, but I'll just repeat it here, which is just okay. That was always allowed.
Yeah,
you were never not allowed to come into the countryside over here. This has never been, like Confederate southern states of the US where people weren't allowed to. This was never Jim Crow era laws or anything. We've always just been like, look at how pretty our countryside is. If you want to go for a walk in it, go for a walk in it. But they seem to have a lot of problems with that. and they seem to have a lot to say about it. So they say, Sidra, a 20-year-old apprentice from Coventry, is a member of the walking group Muslim Hikers. To mark Ramadan this year, this group teamed up with Wiggle and Adidas Terex to create a range of prayer mats designed specifically for outside use. And that's how you know. That's how you know that you're on the side of the oppressed underclass, is when you're being funded by Adidas.
Yes.
When you're getting money from massive shoe companies, that's how you know that I'm the little guy.
Yeah.
Nobody's on my side.
Specially designed prayer mats, you know, are they going to have the 3 stripes on them as well? You know, the Adidas
Maybe.
stripes? Who knows?
They want to get the branding in there.
Yeah,
you know, when you're praying to Allah, you want to make sure that you've got good backing behind
It'll
you.
be a prayer mat with a compass in, I take it.
Presumably. And they say here, well, you don't need the compass, actually, because what the next sentence is, next part of the sentence is what concerns me about this, because they say they have installed signs pointing to Mecca along popular hiking routes in the Peak District. Can you believe that?
That's unbelievable.
Can you actually believe that? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, because what's happening there, that is why I've called this segment Countryside Colonisation, because those are actual colonial tactics.
Yeah.
When you would go into a different country and decide this is ours now, one of the first things that you do is you put up signage that lets everybody know that this is your country now.
Yeah.
So we are a Christian country, historically, unless you go all the way back to Anglo-Saxon pagan times, and even then we became Christians partway through that anyway. This is a Christian country. We should not have Muslim signs pointing to Mecca in the countryside.
No.
But this is, again, you're right, it is colonisation, and we don't need it. I always remember from doing my Duke of Edinburgh's award as a cadet, take nothing out of the countryside except memories, leave nothing in the countryside except footprints. You don't need anything else. That's it. So compasses, signs to Mecca, or anything else is not correct. It's not right.
No, it's certainly not right. And once again, this is just, to me, the same as when you look at Whitechapel and you see images where they've got the train stations and you've got the one sign in English, the one side in some Arabic language, etc. The only sign for this is that we're in charge now.
Yes.
That's how I see it, and it should not be going on. I would take them down personally, but I'm not suggesting anybody do anything like that without, of course, legal permission to do so. And they say here, they carry on saying, considering that these people were subject to a torrent of racist online abuse for posting about a Christmas Day hike in 2021, Sidra says this new collaboration means the world for her. I would imagine there's probably some context being left out there.
Yes.
And that kind of torrent of racist abuse is probably along the lines of us criticising this article right now. We're being evil by doing this. I hope you understand that.
Are they now going to close down the little country pubs on the hikes, on the walks, because that might offend people, or the bacon butty wagons that crop up in Brecon in particular, where the SAS do the training? There's a bacon butty.
Bacon, that's pretty haram.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Where does this go?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, from where I would see it, I would imagine that as long as it cements in this domination of the native population of these countries, that's as far as they go. Anything that furthers them being in charge or being put in positions of hierarchy above us, that's where it's going to go. And the only thing that will push back is other people with money and influence being able to push back against it, or just the people, organising, protesting against it as well. But they say, they carry on and say, just having these signs pointing towards Mecca might seem like a small thing, but it's a really thoughtful idea. Yeah, according to this very article, according for the 5 people who go around there, is not a necessary thing. I've already seen clips and photos and images of people having Muslim prayers in Christian churches.
Oh, yeah.
And we already have mosques popping up all around the country where there weren't before. You can go to somewhere like Preston and there's a mosque on every corner. Why do you also need to go into churches? And why are the churches, why are the priests allowing this?
I think that's
because they're apostate.
It's an insult, isn't it? Because there's, for me, it's happening in Swansea, and a church close to my house. It was one that my father's nana used to go to. She used to play the organ in church. That has now become a mosque. And, that would have upset my whole family, and that is at the end of a school road. And that mosque is now openly promoting itself to the schools,
Of course.
Come into and celebrate Eid with us. There was nothing for Easter, by the way, but
Of
all
course
the
not.
local schools go to the mosque.
Yeah, and of course we had South Wales Police doing a almost a dance tribute to Eid. with the chief constable. And
Sorry, really?
Oh yeah.
I didn't see. I must have missed this.
we'll send it to. So you had one officer saying, "I'm not eating to support my friends for Eid." It's true.
All right.
Yeah, and the chief constable, happy Eid and all. Well, actually, it's Mubarak.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Eid Mubarak. Yeah.
Give it the full title. And he had his chocolate medals on. I say chocolate medals because he's never served in the armed forces.
All right.
So
Okay.
so he was wearing the Queen's Silver Jubilee Medal, the Queen's Gold Jubilee Medal,
Participation
and a
medals.
long service medal for being a civil servant.
Brilliant.
Very highly decorated.
Highly decorated, shiny.
Yeah. It's just an insult, isn't it?
It's an insult.
That is
meant,
what it
it's
is.
just meant to humiliate us. And they have some research to back all of this up as well, to prove that we definitely need this. We need all of these groups to be able to get people to go into the countryside, because otherwise they just won't, because there is just racism just in the hills.
But Harry, look, the Cubs, Guides, Scouts, Boys Brigade, the Sea Cadets, the Sea Scouts, the Air Cadets, the Army Cadets, all take in, guess what? Different minorities. They go and invade the countryside by doing the Duke of Edinburgh's award. So this nonsense that these people try and push is completely a nonsense. And
But
then
there's evidence. There's evidence.
Once you've got the taste for the countryside, you go back to it and back to it and back to it. It drives you there. But in order for that to happen, you've got to get off your ass and stop criticising on a keyboard, saying, "Oh, I'm black and I'm oppressed," and I'm talking about something that happened to my great grandparents, possibly, and I'm still oppressed today. Just grow up, sod off if you don't like this country.
But there is evidence, though. There is evidence, and that is that only 1% of visitors to UK national parks are from black, Asian, or minority ethnic backgrounds, according to Campaign to Protect Rural England. And I ask of this, how is this anybody else's fault but their own?
Yeah.
If they just, and it's nobody's fault even, if they just don't want to go, okay, that's their own choice. But they say, this woman writing this article has even more evidence, which is in her gut, she just feels that it's racist. Where she says, among black and ethnic minority communities, there is a sense that outdoor pursuits are not for us. Okay, and limiting narratives that black people don't go walking, that open water swimming is for white women, and that minority groups are only comfortable in cities, and those are perpetuated narratives, apparently. I mean, once again, if this is the case, I don't see the evidence of it. And if it is just the case that these communities don't do those things very often, that's nobody's choice but their own. Very, very strange. But of course, if there is any disparity, this is the world that we live in. If there are any disparities between anything, normal behaviours or anything that anybody does, then it must be down to racism.
Do they want some form of Basil Fawlty at the end of a street that's full of ethnics going, "Get on the bus! Get on! No! Get on the bus!" and whipping them onto the bus to get them into the countryside?
It might have to come to that.
What it'll come to probably is free transport for people to go to the countryside. And when I say people, obviously oppressed people. Like, I'd love to know that 1%. How long is that 1% taken over, and where from? Was it Pembrey Country Park for one day?
I used to be a member of the CPRE and CPRW, so Council for the Protection of Rural England, Council for the Protection of Rural Wales. We dealt exclusively with buildings infringing on in the countryside. Colourful buildings. So you might get a building that they want an orange building in the middle of the countryside. No, stop that. Walls,
that
dry
would be
walls.
hideous.
Yeah, dry walls. Things that that didn't impact on the countryside. Why are they now doing surveys on minorities?
Because they're impacting the countryside, apparently.
Well, they're not, are they?
No. Well, they one of the things that might come up in a moment is some of them might be in a way that's negative if this report is to be anything to go by. They do say before a 2011 report from the University of Leicester. So this one report is what we're going off. Said that there are frequent and alarming forms of racism that affect ethnic minorities in the countryside, and the university has now commissioned a fresh 2-year study to develop an evidence base which reveals the way in which rural racism is expressed and experienced, which is due to begin in October. I will not trust a single thing that comes from this report. There is so much research. And
is it Heriot Watt that's the agricultural college?
I don't know.
I think it is. It should be them that do this survey.
Oh, perhaps
not Birmingham,
not Leicester.
Or Leicester.
I mean, whatever comes from it at the end of the day, anyway, is going to be politically motivated.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're just going to have it politically motivated by political actors dressed up as scientists, so that at the end of it they can say, "See, we have scientific evidence," and that's all it is. But then you get this kind of a self-report in this next bit here, where it says Nigerian-born Enoch Adeyemi, I don't know how to pronounce that, co-founder of Black Scottish Adventurers, recently shared his experiences of hiking with a large group of black men, revealing they are constantly subject to spurious complaints about littering, condescension, and demands to stop playing music. He says, "Why should I turn off my music?" So you are playing music, probably loudly, when somebody just wants to go for a nice walk around the countryside and listen to the birds singing and enjoy the beautiful peace of the countryside.
That is one, again, with CPRE, this is one of the founding rules, really, of all national parks. It's the quiet contemplation of the area that you're in.
That's absolutely what it should be about.
That's why speedboats can't go over, is it 5 miles an hour in the Lake District, which you're going to be going to?
I mean, certainly good.
And there's no power boats. There's no what do they call them? Those that you stand up, skis.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's none of that. It's got to be sailing. Got to be canoeing, quiet stuff.
Good, you want it to be peaceful.
Correct.
That's the point of going to the countryside. If you want to experience noise, hustle and bustle, constant music playing everywhere, you go into
Brixton.
Yeah, you go into Brixton.
Yeah.
You go into an area of a major city that has a large foreign population, and you'll get all of this experience. That's not what I go to the countryside for. And if they are going to bring that experience over into the countryside, it's no wonder that people have said to them, "Could you please turn that music off, or to at least turn it down?" And these people are apparently hearing that and going, "Oh, so you're just racist then?"
Yeah, is it because I is black?
Yeah, is it because I is black, mate? No, it's because you're blasting music and I'm trying to go for a walk. Also, the fact that they've admitted, "Oh, well, we are playing music," it makes me also think, you probably are littering as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
You probably are.
We went on a walk. We did back last summer, 90 miles, 3 days, just a little fundraising walk over the Brecon Beacons. And one of the things I commented on is when you walk for a day into the hills, the silence is deafening. That pressure on your ears from hearing nothing whatsoever. It was an experience I've never had. So if there was someone there with a nice, if they're leaving litter and having music loud as well, no matter who they are, I'd probably say, "Would you mind turning that down a little bit?" It doesn't matter what colour they are.
Yeah.
It's just respectful thing to do when you're out in these sorts of places.
I mean, the other week, over the weekend, I went to Cirencester down the road. Lovely little town, gorgeous place. And I went around for a walk around the Abbey grounds, because they've got a big, beautiful church there with Abbey grounds behind it. And there was a group of white English teenagers sitting around in the field blasting music in an inappropriate volume. Didn't have to matter that they were white or whatever colour they were. It was annoying. And they were in church Abbey grounds that everybody was enjoying for the peace, quiet of it, for being able to just have a nice time in the park with their friends. Don't blast your music in public. That's just rude. And that's one of the things. This is just English, Welsh, British standards that we just, if you go into the countryside, be considerate to others. If
Consideration.
If these are racist standards, I'm sorry to say, I will be upholding them.
Well,
exactly
we've got to embrace these new racist standards, because everything's racist, apparently.
Well, if it comes from a British background, then absolutely. British European background, apparently that just means it's racist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, this is where this sort of thing is going. I think the only solution they're going to have here is to remove the countryside.
Which the Welsh government are doing quite well.
Which they are doing.
Yeah, we've got to pave over the countryside and build suburbs and build new parts of cities. Greater Manchester needs to become Greater Manchester. London needs to take over the entire south coast of the country. God, it sounds like a living hell. But thankfully, they do have a woman called Beth Collier, who's a psychotherapist, an ethnographer, and a founder of the nature-based community group Wild in the City, to be able to put some philosophic psycho babble on top of all of this rubbish, so that you can read this and think to yourself, that's right, I'm smarter for reading this. You're not. I'm sorry, I'm putting you through this. I'm actively draining brain cells and IQ points from the two of you reading through some of this. But she says, in a lot of the philosophy of the early environmental movements, there was a parallel between the idea of pristine landscapes and the ideas of pristine races, which probably just means the English liked wandering around the English countryside and going, isn't it nice that we're English and keep such a nice countryside? Yeah. This is racism.
Do you know what? She actually needs to read about the mass trespass, because white working class were actually barred from the countryside.
Oh yeah, this is true.
It was the mass trespass on Kinder Scout, and that's what opened the countryside up, and that's not many years ago. That's about 100 and odd years ago. That's not many years ago. So all this is just crap.
Yeah, it's all crap. I mean, at the end of the day, when you start doing stuff like that, it just becomes impractical to be able to enforce such nonsensical rules like, sorry, you can't go to the countryside. Because everybody will just go, well, I'll go anyway.
Yeah.
And then what you're going to do? You're going to arrest literally everybody who goes into the countryside.
I've just been sent a link, actually, and it's Wales Online. They've had to close a nice tourist walking area around a dam, a nice big lake, very scenic and popular route because of dog mess. So rather than police that, they've just closed it off. So there's no public access anymore. So this is what I mean when you just get rid of the countryside. No more access for the public.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's what we've got to look forward to, with people blasting music and leaving litter all over the place.
Yeah, so the potential there is to mass trespass without animals, because they can't lock you all up, and it's not right that people should be barred from the countryside, whether you're black, white or sky blue, pink with yellow dots on. But the ethnics, on ethnic minorities on this report, it seems to me, have such a big chip on the shoulder. They need to knock that off, get off their arse, get on a bus and go to the countryside themselves.
If that's what they desperately want to do in the first place.
Or write to Adidas and say, can you sponsor us?
Can you get me a ticket for the bus?
Can you get me a ticket for the bus, and can I have some new shoes, please?
Yeah.
And they'd probably say, yeah, of course.
Well,
well, I mean, if they say no, you just go, I'm going to get a lawyer involved. You're obviously racially discriminating me.
Oh, don't do that. We'll send you 2 pairs.
Yeah. And of course, the answer, as I mentioned, is always. I'll go through the answers near the bottom here. They say there are organisations that are pushing for change. They want to get more people of minority backgrounds into the countryside. And alongside Wild in the City, Muslim hikers, there's also Black Girls Hike, Flock Together, Peaks of Colour, and they don't say it here, but the rather hilariously named We Go Outside Too. Which sounds like a South Park joke. To name just a few of the groups involved, focused on improving access, representation and funding for black people and ethnic minorities in outdoor spaces, activities and sports. Middle-aged white women in their white men in their ivory towers who are in charge of budgets and funding for these organisations need to listen and act on what we have been telling them about our communities and the lack of inclusion that we've seen in these spaces. So here it comes. The senior managements of teams at NGOs and organisations responsible for creating inclusive outdoor spaces need to look around them. They need to ask themselves if their senior and board level teams accurately represent a diverse community. 99% of them don't. So you need to change it, which means you need to give me and my buddies all the jobs and all the money. Yeah. That's what it always comes down to. It's just give me more.
Yes.
Since the boom of BLM, burn, loot and murder.
Mm-hmm. We'll be getting into a bit of that later on in my third segment as well. This is just what it always comes down to. It comes down to we're not getting the exact same statistical results as everybody else, so give us more.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was interesting that after this came out, and obviously all of the problems that's ever faced humanity, even if you want to call I don't fancy going for a walk today a big problem, it all comes down to white people and European people, British people. If you have any kind of identity, if you recognise that, hold up, everybody else in the world seems to be becoming increasingly hostile to my very existence, this just immediately associates you with Nazis, with the KKK, with all of these hateful groups. And I saw this clip come up that Myth-Informed Mike shared, which was rather shocking. It's a clip that's about 2 years old, but it really does kind of sum up this attitude that we're experiencing at the moment. If you want to play this for us, John.
If you're watching to the end of this, I don't think you identify as white. You're not a neo-Nazi or you're not a KKK member unless you're hate watching this. And as I've said, go fuck yourself. But if you're not like that,
Cheers,
then
lad.
you know you're not sitting around talking about white pride and preserving the white race and our white women and we must keep reproducing and produce white children. You're probably not like that. If you're a decent person, then it should be quite easy to put the whiteness down. So I encourage you to renounce your whiteness and join the human race.
What?
I know, absolutely ridiculous. It's just very hateful, as
Yeah.
far as I can tell. Being somebody that I look in the mirror and I go, I'm pretty pale today. I can stand out in the sun for who knows how long and it won't change. I hear that and I think, oh, you just hate me.
Yeah.
You hate me and you want me gone. Okay, that's interesting. It even came from a video. People have just rediscovered this. It came from a video that nobody had ever heard of before. But it's just so emblematic. If you go to the next link, John, the video is just called Renounce Your Whiteness.
Yeah.
No, how about that? And just to end off this segment, just one last thing. When I mentioned earlier that the science is all politically motivated, is all political actors, for anybody who may have doubted me on the accuracy of that statement, I saw this tweet going around a few days ago from a wonderful Twitter account called Data Hazard, which you should all follow. He posts some very interesting stats and figures where he just points out that in America, the Biden administration is going to just be outlawing what's referred to here as imbalanced data sets and any kind of research that comes to discriminatory outcomes. So if you do research on particular topics where you find that there may be a disparity at the end of it that doesn't paint particular communities in a good light, you are literally going to be violating federal law in the US.
So even if it's factual.
Especially if it's factual.
I've actually got some information for you, Harry.
Oh, yeah, carry on.
That already happens in Wales.
I'm not surprised.
You cannot find out how many refugees we have in Wales.
Yeah, we'll be going on to that. In our
But we
one
will be
anyway.
going on to that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The 1984 dystopia is
Whenever these things come out, this isn't just the start of it. It's never just the start of it. It's always just, we're just putting into words what we've already been doing. If you had already been doing this, you may not have been violating federal law, but you can guarantee if it had been part of a university, then all of the students would have immediately been mobilized against you by an organization like BLM or some such. So yeah, just remember to go for a walk in your local countryside park today, please. And respect it. Be respectful. Don't litter, don't blast music, just go for a walk, enjoy the peace and quiet. If you do want to listen to music, put some bloody earphones in.
We hope you enjoyed that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed, you can go and get the full podcast for free on our website. And also you can pay us as little as £5 a month to get access to all of our premium content, such as the Contemplation series, this episode where Josh discusses with Stelios whether or not cities are having an impact on our psychology and politics. If you want to find out all of the content that we're putting out, you can follow us at lotuseaters_com on Twitter and Getter. Until next time, goodbye.